Well, welcome to the GCI Conference Center. Please enter. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the star key now. Your conference will begin when the chairperson arrives. Please wait. will now be placed into conference. There are 20 participants in the conference.
I don't know what this siren is when we go on the air. Good morning. It's 9:05 a.m. and we're in Nome, Alaska, the Marijuana Control Board. We'll call this morning, Friday the 13th, triple full moon edition to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mark Springer.
Present.
Lauren Jones.
Here.
Nick.
Here.
Christopher Jaime.
Here.
Bruce Schulte.
Here.
Director McConnell. Here. Harriet Milk. Here. And I'm Michael Martin.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, we're going to, just to give you a rundown, we're going to do tab 31, which is ACP, I guess it doesn't stand for anything, ACP in Port Alexander. Then we're going to go back to some of the delegated. We've got 6. Let me just, if you're on, we'll be looking for you. Brown Owl, Alaskine, Denali Herb, Alaska Cultivators, Bigfoot Bud, and Dally Woda. If you're on, stay on. When we get done with ACP, we're going to do delegated. Then we're going to move into renewals, and the chair would certainly, when we get to that, accept a streamlining motion, kind of bunch those up. And with any luck, we will be out of here in time to go gold panning before the plane. So, with that, for the end of the meeting, okay, the end of the meeting, we, a couple of things, we will possibly have some end of the meeting public comment, but we will be prioritizing requests, and we will be trying to offer some guidance to staff and enforcement on licensed name versus advertised name. So, with that, I'm going to go to tab 31, ACP in Port Alexander. It looks like they have a representative here, and Mr. Wells is their counsel. Mr.
Yes,
Wells,
sir, and good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, and
I am here in my office with Ms. Pfister and her grow manager, Mr. Markey, this morning.
That's right. They were there yesterday with you. Okay, first rate. Then, why don't we get a motion here to get started? Yes, ma'am.
Before that, I would just like to inform you that because this objection did come in within the objection period, but after the end of the agenda, the objector was informed that this would be considered on the November meeting, just so you know.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, we can always once we see the objection in November, we can consider. So we will have Mr. Wells and clients. We will have this on the agenda in the November meeting. At least consideration of the objection, notwithstanding what action we take today.
That's fine.
So with that, can we have a motion for ACP LLC license 20716, new cultivation?
Motion to approve license number 20716, ACP LLC.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, second by Mr. Schulte. Mr. Wells, and when you let your clients introduce themselves to us.
My name is Patricia Pfister. I have lived in Port Alexander for about 8 years, coming there from Texas with my husband, who is a contractor. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Jake Markey. I'm the project manager. Been living in Port Alexander now for about a year. I come there to help Patricia and her husband with some contracting projects that they had. Lots of experience in growing, and come from California, Oregon, Washington. Been in the industry now about 15 years, and we're here now to see what we can do.
Okay, since I'm not as familiar with Southeast Alaska as some might be, where exactly is Port Alexander, and what communities is it nearby or connected to?
Well, we're on Baranof Island. Sitka is at the top, and we are at the bottom. There's probably 85 miles. We're 85 miles from Sitka, but that's Baranof Island.
Okay, are you connected by road to Sitka?
No, we are not. We're a very remote location.
You can only get to us by float plane or by boat.
All right. So tell us what you got in mind there.
What we're gonna do is, we're planning on putting in a grill, obviously. It's for the community, basically. We've sat down and talked about it ever since I got there a year ago. There is no industry there for anybody to make money other than me coming from the background that I was from, and Ken and Pepper being involved in the growing for themselves. We sat down and had a town meeting. After the town meeting was done, we all realized that we would be able to employ basically the entire town and have something for everybody there to do.
Is there a retail in Port Alexander?
There is no retail in Port Alexander. We have retail stores in Juneau and Sitka.
We, as an editorial we, right?
The industry.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Different Island, Nakati Bay, there's a grow operation that we approved. I think there's a retail store in Craig, and certainly Ketchikan, but Port Alexander is pretty isolated, but it is a second-class city, so.
Correct.
Okay. The objection is from the municipality? Or is that from, do we know?
It's from an individual
No, it's from an
named Ms.
individual.
Karina Browning.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Actually, the city is in full support of this, and my clients can comment on that in a minute. They've had city council meetings as to this.
What's the population there in Port Alexander?
Full-time is around 50 residents, and then summertime when fishing's there, we get up to about 85.
DC area officially was showing 91, I think, on their website. Also, just for your all information, I also checked, and I'm glad to know that the local government is supportive, but Port Alexander they do ban the sale of alcohol. They are a local option for alcohol, Port Alexander.
Okay, thanks. All right, so what's your, you're in an extremely isolated place. You can get there by boat or float plane. Do you get barge service there?
We do get barge service, and we also have a weekly supply boat that comes in, the EAC, and he comes in weekly to bring groceries and fuel and whatnot. And then we also have our own boat. It's an 84-footer that we run into town for building supplies and things like that, grow supplies that we'll need along the way.
Okay, so just one last question. What's your cultivation business plan? Which you're obviously going for the retail markets in surrounding communities. Surrounding as in.
We're definitely going to be going for the retail market around the surrounding communities. We want to target Southeast Alaska in general, and eventually we're looking to open our own retail store.
Okay. Yeah. Do we have any other questions from any other board members on this?
Sure. I had a couple of questions, some of which I guess probably gets answered a little bit by Mr. Wells' response to the objection. I was really concerned about issues of electrical power, but I understand you'll be on your own generator.
We don't have anything open on.
That raises some questions about internet access for Patrick.
Maybe on yours.
So,
it may make sense for you to close QuickBooks.
Folks, if you're not in Mr. Wells' office, can you please mute your phones? If you're a lady there talking and a gentleman talking, please mute your phones. Thank you.
So if you could talk about your internet access and power supply.
We have full-time internet. It's high speed. There is no issue with internet there. We actually just got a new company that came in and set us up with that, so HughesNet, it's been very well for us. As far as power goes, we went and got a Whisper Quiet Cat generator. It's an enclosed generator, but we also plan on putting it inside another enclosure to make it as quiet as possible. So the generator shouldn't be an issue. We have, the entire town is ran by generator, everybody having their own. So we did our research and found, you know, the quietest one that we could possibly get.
Okay. I don't know what your feedback's like. Yeah, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I just have one question, I think, and this, I don't think this is necessarily a function of whether the license is approvable or not, but I'm just curious, given your location, the fact you're going to be running this whole facility off of generators, does this pencil out? I mean, the fuel cost must be exorbitant. I mean, because
yes, it does pencil out, actually. We've sat down and had multiple town meetings, and, you know, just the fact that we can help the community and everybody will have employment makes it pencil out in itself. Sure, we won't make as much as everybody else does in the industry, but for us, it'll be a huge life-changing.
Okay, all right, thanks. I was just curious.
Bringing in the fuel in large quantities is how we'll definitely save on that.
So you anticipate having the most handler cards per capita of any community in Alaska?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear you.
I said you're anticipating having the most marijuana handler cards per capita of any community in Alaska.
Yes, sir.
Definitely.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
So just going back to the generator. So I mean, there was some objection as to the generator. It sounds like these guys have gone to some lengths to find the quietest commercial generator they can. I mean, is that pretty reasonable?
That is reasonable, and not only is it the quietest one we could find, it's the quietest one in town, including our neighbors. Hers is much louder than our commercial one.
Okay. So if there's not any other questions, again, we will be considering the objection at the November meeting. But in the matter of license 20716, new standard cultivation, the only standard cultivation on the agenda today, this meeting, ACP LLC in Port Alexander, Alaska. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schulte?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ramey?
Yes.
Ramey, yes. So there you go.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
We've approved the application, but you said that we're going to consider the objection in November.
Yeah, we'll consider the objection. It's not for the municipality, so it won't have any necessarily any force with us, but we owe it to the objector who got it in on time to consider. We just don't have it in front of us, so we'll have it on there, and if it seems to rise to a degree that we think should require us to take any further action, we'd be able to.
Okay, because I thought we were talking about the other objection that we do now have on the...
We only have one objection, right? Yeah, we just have the one objection.
But isn't that on our computers now?
Yes, it is, but the objector was informed that it would be considered by the board in the November objection because it came in after the deadline for this meeting. But in a timely meeting, the requirement
but the
of the
licensee
objection.
is free to proceed with their plans at this point. Is that... Yes, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, license, yes.
Okay, they have an approval with delegation.
Okay, I wasn't clear on the timeline. Thanks.
Yeah, we get a time web going sometimes.
I'm gonna have to talk to Steve about when he goes down for the inspection. I may want to go with him.
There you go. There you go. All right, so we are now going to get back to...
Thank you all. Have a good day.
You bet. We're going to get back into delegated status. As soon as I unconfuse my pile of agenda here. Let's see now.
7.
Page 7, thank you. Don't know what I would do without you. All right. So Brown Owls Cultivation in Fairbanks. Are you on the line? Brown's Owl. Who is their counsel? I'm saying was, not is.
Yeah, Jan Welting, I was their counsel because, remember, they ran into financial issues, and we haven't been able to reach them either.
Okay. Right.
And we have tried.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the board has provided me with direction on this, so you can move on.
Okay, then we'll move on to page 8, Alaskind. I'm guessing it's page 8. Alaskind in Fairbanks. Are you on the line? Alaskind LLC. Hello, Alaskind LLC. Are you with us? Okay. They got their license approved in May of 18, and we wanted to see them on July 10th of 2019. They weren't there, so we'll give them a shot in November. They're waiting on fire marshal, so. All right, which could be?
Mr. Springer?
Yes.
I believe that yesterday when they were still not here, you gave the director a blanket direction that if it's the second time coming back to you that we should, the third time coming back to you that we should give them the notice.
Yeah, this will just be the second for them. But
This is the second, so November will be the second.
correct, yes. Okay, Denali Herb Company in Wasilla. Are you with us? They're waiting for fire marshal. Their building was still being built, and we let them know we wanted a September update. Denali Herb LLC, are you out there? Don't appear to be. Okay, AK Cultivations in Wasilla. Charles Campbell, Justin Bacher. Hello, are you there? We've got the phone open, right?
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Right. Okay, yeah. Okay, so, AK Cultivations, are you on the line? All right. Bigfoot Bud Company in Kenai, are you with us? All right, and you know, it's a little, we give these guys one more shot, maybe just before lunch, remind me. Yeah. And Daliwoda. Daliwoda, tab 15. Where's tab 15?
What number?
Number 15. Oh, yeah, number 15. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's why I was so easily confused. Daliwoda in North Pole. Standard cultivation. Are you on the line? Okay. None of the above. If I had a standard cultivation application on the pole, I'd be showing up. But that's just me. Okay, we are going to move on to renewals, which is the better part of our business today.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
we do
sir.
have tab 43, which is not a renewal, it is
Tab
a report
43.
on tax.
Oh, yes, yep, thank you. Thank you very much, yes. Report on delinquent in payment of taxes, and then we've got, yes. So, you want to talk about this, Director?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the board knows, the burden of paying taxes falls on cultivation facilities. And 3 AAC 306-480, which is a section called marijuana tax to be paid, states marijuana cultivation facility, including a standard marijuana cultivation facility and a limited marijuana cultivation facility, shall submit monthly reports to the Department of Revenue and pay the excise tax required under AS 4361-010 and A 4361-020 on all marijuana sold or provided as a same to a marijuana establishment. Every month we get a report from the Department of Revenue.
Can you write down anything that you think she said wrong too? Or if we get...
I'm really trying not to say anything wrong.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
So every month, who knows? The Department of Revenue provides AMCO with a list of cultivators who are considered delinquent in their excise tax obligation. We have been issuing a notice of violation to those licensees, and to date we've issued approximately 84 NOVs for tax delinquency. In late 2018, we had sort of developed a process that if you if you had already received 2 NOVs for tax delinquency and you were ready to get a third and you hadn't resolved the issue, you hadn't become compliant and then fallen off again, that you were served with an accusation. Most of the people who got accusations immediately negotiated a payment plan with the Department of Revenue, so those accusations are withdrawn before the board hearing. And my recollection of the one hearing that the board held, the board directed the licensee to get on a payment plan, and they did so. So I'm not sure that that's the best method to address tax delinquency, but I would like the board to provide me with some direction on how you would like this issue to be addressed. And, you know, licensees, things happen, life happens, and maybe, you know, they miss their taxes 1 month or 2 months, but I've provided you with a list of licensees who were delinquent in at least 4 of the first 7 months of 2019. So we have licensees who are, you know, occasionally delinquent, but then we have licensees who have created a significant pattern of delinquency. The August report from the Department of Revenue listed 19 cultivation facilities that were currently delinquent. That list, which is provided in this tab, did not include accounts that were compliant with their payment plans or licensees that have gone out of business still owing taxes to the state. It does not include accounts that have a past due balance under $200. But if they were to include all of those entities, they would report 45 licensed cultivators owing a total of over $1 million. I received an updated report after this came out, probably related to this information, and there were several licensees who had resolved their tax delinquency. So the updated report, which is dated September 10th, states that there are 9 licensed cultivators who have failed to pay marijuana excise taxes as required as of September 10th. And if they reported on the total number of past due accounts for tax periods through June 30th, they would report 37 licensed cultivators owing a total of $911,000. So clearly, even just these efforts of information being provided to the board have encouraged 8 cultivators to pay their taxes. So with that, again, writing an accusation and scheduling a hearing and bringing the board in for a hearing, that's time-consuming for me, it's time-consuming for you. Is that the most effective way to address this issue? Would you like to set some parameters for when I do that? Would you like to direct me to do something else? But, you know, paying your taxes is a requirement of your regulations, and so it does seem that this needs to be addressed in some way.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
You know, I agree. We early on we had a lot of this discussion. The one in which we actually went to a hearing, and we've had several others that we have. I remember one recently that we had a lot of issues, and it started with odor, and then it was debris in the garbage can and stuff. But they were also delinquent in their taxes, and you know, we struggled for a long time about suspension or removal of license and what impact that would have on their ability to pay their taxes. And I think this board tried to come down on the side of if they can legitimately stay in business, if they can legitimately follow the rules, we should try to let that happen so they can get on their back correct on their taxes. So I don't see a lot of value in necessarily suspending or limiting a provider for back taxes. I also don't want to sort of put them up on either double penalty because I don't know what Department of Revenue does. And when we had the Department of Revenue here a couple of times and we talked about this, they were really clear. They really didn't feel they could share information with us about what they were doing or not doing to collect taxes or taking people to court or what their rules are. And they don't even report to us when they've been compliant. It's just, if they were on last month's list and they aren't on this month's list, then we have to assume that they have some payment plan because the Department of Revenue doesn't inform us. It puts us in a bind if we're going to try to, I use this term loosely, discipline the licensee for failing to pay their taxes from our standpoint. All that being said, I think it's worth the licensee's understanding that the board takes that issue seriously, that I think staff should, immediately inform the provider that we've been told by Revenue you're behind. Don't know if that's necessarily a notice of violation report, but something needs to be said to them in a documented way, and then each time we come to a board meeting, we should be notified of how many that is. And I know we have done that through the notice of violation, and I'm not sure that that's maybe the right way to do it, but certainly they're, like every other violation, they are violating our regulations, and that's the reason for the notice of violation. In the regulation process where we're trying to set up the fine schedule, we talk about the possibility of an advisory notice, which is like short of a notice of violation and is something that's used in the alcohol board. But those regulations aren't in place yet. So, sort of rambling here a little bit because I'm trying to think through this process and I want to think through it in a very open manner with the board. I do think we are within our rights to notify them that they're behind. Certainly within our rights to say, you're violating our rules. You have to be current with the Department of Revenue. But I don't want to go so far as to say, if you're delinquent for 6 months and you don't have a payment plan, basically we're going to close your business down, because then it's taking revenue. But that may be the last sort of stick to get somebody to go to a payment plan. So I do think if it was my advice, I would ask the director to, keep a running list, to document all the notices they send to the person, and request that if they have a payment plan, we get notified of that payment plan. And then we could look at that information ourselves. But we would know, 1, you were notified, 2, you didn't respond, 3, you didn't set up a payment plan, 4, it's going to the board. And then I guess we individually have to decide what to do. But to me, that would be some logical sort of administrative steps short of, hauling them before the board and having them plead mea culpa and all that stuff.
Thanks. We can also, I don't think you're wrong in what you said there. I don't see any reason why we cannot take the course that the office receives from the Department of Revenue on delinquencies and post it on the website. For sure, I want to see it in our agenda. I want an item on here that we're informed of what the Department of Revenue is saying. But it's a public document. They're notifying us. We don't have any regulation that says that notification from the Department of Revenue that somebody is delinquent is confidential. Department of Revenue's got their confidentiality rules, but people should. This gives the licensee an opportunity to see that, oh yeah, I'm behind, and it gives the public a chance to see. I mean, this is $1 million outstanding. That's almost $50,000 per cultivator. 19. averaged out. That's, that's a lot of money, and we want to see the state getting their revenue there. And I think having this published on the website is almost as impactful as getting an NOV.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, I agree with much of what Mr. Jones said. I mean, I don't see a lot of value in pulling their license because, again, that removes their ability to pay the taxes. But at the same time, that was the deal. You get a licensed cultivation and you pay the taxes. It occurs to me, though, that this whole issue of the taxes has been, it's been an issue. It's one that I've spoken to, and I think we've put forth a request that the legislature take a look at this. I know some of these people. I don't know them personally, but I mean I know of their businesses. Some of them may just have poor marketing, poor product, poor business skills. Maybe they're just high transportation costs. Who knows? I'm not suggesting a solution, but at some point it might be helpful to invite these folks to come address the board and explain why they're delinquent on their taxes and what if they think they're in a unique situation, explain that and commit to a payment plan. If they think that their situation is not unique, their input could be valuable in educating a more different tax structure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if people are willing to do that, I could certainly see setting up a public hearing on tax difficulties at an upcoming meeting. I mean, I can't see a reason why not to continue to press this issue both from the standpoint of the taxpayer and of the structure. We heard, I think in our last meeting, we got some presentation about the impact that the tax structure has. So, yeah, we'll continue to talk about it. I agree with Mr. Jones. I don't think that putting out NOVs every time you get one of these letters is really a good effort, good time and effort for the staff.
Through the chair, putting out anything takes time and effort. So whether it's an NOV for which we have a template or a different letter is going to be exactly the same amount of time and effort. Technically, they are in violation of the regulations. No further action is taken unless the board chooses to take it. So to me, I would argue that this is an appropriate way to notify both the licensee and the board that they're in violation of the regulations by not paying their taxes, and it'll be up to the board to determine whether at some point there is such a collection of these NOVs that the board wants to take further action. But I am hearing from you that you don't want me to take any further action, but I would argue that because it is an actual violation and replacing an NOV with some sort of letter or advisory is an equal amount of work, why not stay with this?
That's also a very good point, and maybe I oversimplified things. Yeah, if it's a violation, then you would be neglectful by not notifying people that a violation has occurred. But yeah, maybe let's just keep putting out the NOVs. It would have to be pretty egregious for it to get to the point where we would discuss revoking somebody's license over taxes. We've had that conversation, in enforcement actions we've taken, and the consensus has been, yeah, well, if we revoke their license, then the state's not going to get anything. We're better off maybe, letting them continue to operate and be able to pay their taxes. And let's remember, the taxes that are owed here are taxes on product that has sold, not product that's in a bin underneath the workbench. It's product that has been sold. So whether it's good or bad product, somebody bought it. So,
Mr. Chair, there's a couple other issues I think about taxes that, and I know some communities, all the communities in Alaska are different. There is one provider on this list that, because of the way City and Borough General deals with delinquent sales taxes per se, is that since I'm on the assembly there, it's important for us to know that. But every year, we publish in the paper for usually a week, anybody who's delinquent in sales taxes, or a business that hasn't even filed with us that should be paying taxes. Those get noticed in the newspaper. That has not generally boosted our collection. It has changed some people's purchasing decisions. Like most of us on the assembly don't frequent a business that hasn't paid their sales taxes, but there's 9 of us, so we're not a major economic impact. We also publish if they haven't paid their property taxes. But we do require for marijuana businesses that they have a separate license with us. It's the only business that we as a municipality issue a separate license. And it says you will be in compliance with all state rules. If they're also delinquent in sales tax, we only find that out once a year. And in particular, there's a name on this list that has appeared at times that's delinquent on state taxes, that checking in, I found out they're also delinquent on sales taxes. And so we as a municipality may have to make a decision whether we take away their license locally because they haven't paid sales taxes. If they also haven't paid state taxes, then they can't operate. They can't grow. We then be taking a separate action from this board related to a business. I don't know if other communities that have taxes on marijuana, I think Anchorage does, Fairbanks does, whether they have separate rules related to that. So I think licensees need to know that, it's not just state revenue. I mean, if they're behind that, they may be affecting their status with the local municipality. If you're a grow and a retail and the municipality has a sales tax on the retail, generally if they're behind in the state taxes, they're probably also behind on their retail because they had issues with a crop or people didn't show up to buy, the employees to pay, and so instead of paying the taxes, they pay the employees even though they're collecting the tax on behalf of the city. Sort of like, if you charge $100 and you charge 5%, you're collecting that from the purchaser to give to the city. Well, you don't collect the 105% and then pay your employees and don't pay the city because you're taking our money. So it's an issue that I think is important for the licensees to know that they may be impacting their local. But again, we as a board don't know those kinds of things. I don't know who might be delinquent on their sales taxes in Anchorage and whether or not they then have a grow operation that then they're behind on their state taxes. And I don't know that that's information we would know. But I think if we had them here before us, we could ask those kinds of questions because we know who has multiple licenses that might be delinquent in more than one area of their taxes. So, but I think it's important that they understand that, as Mr. Schulte said, this is part of the deal. You get a license, you're a cultivator, and you sell a product, you're required to pay the taxes. And a good accounting system would segregate that money out, set it in a different account, and an accountant would not allow them to use it for payroll and not allow them to use it for other stuff. But if that's not happening and they're doing their own books, then who knows?
Sure. Well, given that they can't use the banking system, it might involve putting in a different cardboard box. But, it occurs to me, and the executive director has come to the board asking for some specific direction, and I take that very seriously. So I'm just searching for some positive action we can take. And here's a thought I just want to throw out for consideration. We don't want to pull their license, and reduce, eliminate their ability to grow and produce any product. We've agreed that that's kind of counterproductive. What if we set some threshold at which we would say, okay, from now on, or until you get your taxes paid, or until you get on a payment plan, we're going to suspend your ability to transfer any product. You can grow it, you can harvest it, you can cure it and store it, but you can't move it until you come right on your taxes.
The problem with that is you're interrupting their cash flow.
Agreed.
And we've had people come in here and say, yeah, look, I got I had some kind of a issue that came up that required all my cash. I had to pay employees, I had to pay an electrician, I had to pay the water bill, and I didn't have enough cash to cover my taxes, but I've got another harvest coming, and I'm going to pay the back taxes and the coming taxes. So if we were to say, if we were to penalize them, I mean, you're essentially taking away, 2/3 of their license, of their rights as a cultivator by saying, well, until you pay your taxes, you're not going to be able to transfer. You'll have people say, you know what, here's my license. You're going to have people that are in that situation.
Well, to be honest, some of them are probably in that situation and are not yet willing to acknowledge it. And I want them all to succeed. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want every one of these licensees to be successful, clearly. But we have a problem here. The agreement that they made with the voters, with the state of Alaska, was, you have sanction to grow this product and sell it, and here's the cost. And it pains me, and I am the first one to say we've got to fix this tax structure because it's clearly a problem. But at some point we've got to do something positive, or I suspect some of them are just going to fold, regrettably, and go away, owing the state $1 million. I don't know. It's the best solution I could come up with. I don't have a better one.
I agree with Mr. Schulte, actually. There has to be ramifications for these notice violations. I don't know if this is possible. Can we summons or have like an appearance notice that they come see the board during the Anchorage meeting so they can address the tax liability problems, or?
You tell me who you want to come, and I'll tell them the board wants them to come.
And that would be a board decision, but, somebody with 5 NOVs, or, more than 5, or whatever it may be, but it would be a board decision.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to hear from more licensees. Just glancing down this, we've got, at least on these 2 pages, well, a couple of more limiters than standards on 1 through 10. We know that the ones that are, there are some standards that have problems, and sometimes it is problems selling product. I mean, I know that Brandon, who buys trim, right, for his refinery, says he would have cultivators call him in tears saying, please, can you buy this from me? And he either had enough, and had to say no. So it's a, especially for a small cultivator, it's a very, very competitive marketplace. And, some people, as you suggested, didn't realize what they were getting into. And even some standards, they put a lot of investment in it, and they find that either they can't sell what they've got, or they've had crop issues. So I mean, there's a lot of things that impact the cash flow in a place. And I'll be the first to admit that when I was the city administrator in Hooper Bay, there were many times when the bookkeeper would come to me on payday and say, paychecks or withholding taxes? And guess what I said? So, yeah, I would like to hear from cultivators. I think we should continue to, when we get notice from Department of Revenue, I think that there should be an NOV, and that's the easiest way, the most consistent way for the board to be informed that this problem is here, instead of here's the letter from Department of Revenue for this month. At least these NOV reports, we see what the history has been, how many they've had. So actually, I don't. And again, an NOV is just notice. It's a ticket. It's a fix-it ticket. The next step is accusation. So we don't revoke based on NOVs. We just don't. We would consider revocation if it was brought to us by the director as a request for action. So the NOVs, actually, I think we should probably just keep doing them. But let's
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
a quick question.
Yes.
So what then is the threshold? Mind you, I'm not advocating.
Threshold
picking
for
these people up.
accusation?
Yes.
For tax delinquency,
delinquency,
we don't really have a threshold for revocation, do we?
Well, I had started with the third one, but as noted in my memo, that really didn't seem practical and a good use of everyone's time. So I haven't issued any for taxes since, in close to a year. And so that's one of the things that I am now asking the board. But perhaps
About accusations.
About this issue in general, but perhaps before you determine a threshold for accusations, maybe you want to tell me the threshold for asking somebody to come to the board to talk to you, and then we can continue to the discussion after that. I mean, if you look at the chart that I provided on page 1, people who are consistently delinquent, 4 out of any 6 months, do you want to hear from them? 3 out of any 6 months, 6 out of any 6 months? I mean, maybe some sort of, that sort of threshold, then you would say, please come talk to us and tell us about what's going on.
Well, we may find that setting that threshold and requiring that, having met that threshold, they have to come before the board and explain their situation. That might be a motivator to at least enter into a payment plan. And I get it. I understand some of these people are probably struggling between paying, paying their taxes, making payroll, paying their electric bill. I get it. So, but we have to do something at some point.
I don't have any problem with asking everybody on this list that you give us, a spreadsheet, to appear either personally or telephonically before us. It looks like one of them, I don't know, are they even still in business? I mean, they're yes all the way across. I mean, I don't know whether they're even doing any trade. So
they're asking for a renewal. Mr. Chair, I think sorry, I had to step out. I may have to go again, but it would seem to me that if we're looking for a threshold, 3 or 4 months out of a 6-month period, if they're a standard cultivation, would be a threshold that I think would, to me, mandate that they appear before the board. And if Mr. Schulte's right, they'll come to us and say, here's my payment plan. I'm good with the Department of Revenue. If not, then either they won't show, and then we have some decisions to make, or they come with their rationale that we can accept or reject. But, and I understand when we first started, a cultivator would start and it would be 3, 4, 5 months before they would have any product to sell. Most standard cultivations, if I am correct, have now staggered enough of their operation that they're sometimes harvesting every month. Doesn't necessarily mean they're selling every month, but they're at least harvesting every month. But eventually they would be selling every month. Limited cultivations, I would think, we might want to treat a little differently because they may very well be more cyclical. We've got a couple of outdoor grows that I assume that they're very cyclical, one harvest from the summer. So they might be behind every summer, but it's only once a year, and that could be an issue too. But I do think that for standard, and maybe 4 months out of it, maybe it should be 3, half, 50% of the time in the last 6-month period before the board meeting, they were delinquent. And they're still delinquent in that month, then I think they should come before the board. I think that would be a decent threshold.
okay, so as far as direction for the director goes, number one, our NOVs, keep issuing them when she gets a receipt from the Department of Revenue, and provide us with the list of NOVs and the correspondence from the Department of Revenue.
And I think I will separate those NOVs out from the other NOVs. So maybe under the NOV section we'll have 2. It'll just be
Yes,
the tax
that's
ones.
right.
I can put the revenue information with that, and then it can be all the other NOVs.
Right, the NOVs you write versus the NOVs enforcement rights. I mean, enforcement doesn't write the tax NOVs, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Do they? Okay.
There's a template.
But they're more an administrative matter anyway. So, yes, and then, who do we want to hear from at the next meeting? I think everybody, at least everybody on this list here.
I think 3's a good threshold.
Three missed months.
Chair, I think if the meeting's in November, whatever the cutoff date is, would that be 1st of November, 20th of October?
I think it's October 25th.
So people that have been delinquent for 3 of the 6 months prior to October 25th, a letter would be sent saying, the board would like you to come and explain why your tax liability is such and be here. And we've scheduled, it'll be on the agenda, you'll be able to check on the agenda as to when in the order of the agenda, and we expect you to be there.
And your other suggestion was to post, I guess, the Department of Revenue letters on the website?
Doesn't bother me. Does that bother anybody else?
One, I'm not sure of the value of that. I don't know how many people that would pay any attention to that would go. I doubt it. Maybe their competitors would look at that as an opportunity and go purchase a provider that might be struggling. But to me, generally we do that in once a year on sales tax or property tax, as much to have maybe relatives notify us, but also in some ways to notify the public about a business in your community. But I don't know that many people in the public that pay attention to what the grow operators in Juneau are paying in taxes. So I don't see much value in putting it on a web page. I think that's a piece of work that would require continual updating and an administrative thing that I don't think staff has time to do, and I don't see any value in it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth staff's time to do it.
All right. You set?
Thank you. Yeah.
You bet. Okay, so now we will move on to renewals. And we have
Yes, Chair.
yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all renewals with the opportunity for amendments to pull any out that people would like to discuss.
Second. Okay.
Motion to approve tabs 44 through 114, license renewals.
Oh, yeah. If I could.
And I will second that, and then I have several that I want to pull.
Okay. If you get another one of those.
So,
Shoot.
I'm not exactly sure how you want to keep track of all of this. Oh, you're going to mark it down? Okay.
Yeah, leave it up to staff.
Okay. In particular, license 53 and 86, which is basically the same provider, two different licenses.
To clarify, I believe that's, are you talking about the tab number?
Yes, I'm talking about the tab number, not the license number, the tab number. Tab 53 and tab 86. Tab 69, tab 110. Okay, I'll start over. 53, 86, 66, 72, 69, and 110. I don't think, yes, 86 was one of them.
And then 110.
Yeah. And just as an amendment, those are the ones that as I went through all of these last night, that I identified that I wanted some additional information on.
Okay, I think I got all those. Are there any other tabs that board members would like to pull from the
46.
40,
or 45, I mean.
45, Rainforest Farms, okay. All right, so 45, 53, 66, 72, 86, and what was it, 110?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. Oh, yes.
But I'm only one
I have
board
that checked
member, I
off.
don't know if anybody else is.
All right, so does anybody, any other members have any renewal applications that they would like to discuss in particular? All right, not hearing any, then let's look at tab 45, Rainforest Farms.
Mr. Chair, the reason that I pegged that one was, we had a hearing related to, a transfer without prior approval. And so I flagged that simply because, one, they're behind on their taxes. They showed up on tab 43 as being delinquent for about 4 months out of the last 6. At that hearing, they talked about taxes was one of the issues on reason for transfer. So, but I didn't see the transfer request on this agenda. So, I assume the renewal is important so that they stay a licensee, but the transfer is working its way through the processes. And I just wanted to verify that before, we went ahead.
I anticipate the transfer being on the next agenda, but don't promise that.
Okay, but it's still in the works. It's something that hasn't been either canceled or...
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I mean, to my knowledge, it's still in the works.
Okay.
And the licensee, he did receive $50,000 for taxes, is what he said, wasn't it? During the last teleconference?
And I thought they said they used that to get current with their city sales tax. I don't know if they got current with their state taxes with that transfer purchase, but that was an issue that came before us, so.
Well, and I think that hearing was about the retail store, and this would be the cultivation facility, correct?
Right, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the purchaser was buying both, I believe.
No, I think the transfer is only for the retail store.
Only for the retail. Okay. All right.
Right, yeah.
So that's fine with me.
Okay.
And the reason I tagged 53 and 86 was that was actually the same licensee, different license numbers.
This licensee has 2 limited cultivations in separate locations.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, they're both delinquent in their taxes, so, and I wanted to know if there was some circumstances. Do we know if they have a payment plan yet? Do we know anything other than they're delinquent on both of their grow operations?
I have no additional information.
If you'd like, we can open the phone lines. We notified everyone that's on the agenda for NOVs that they would be under consideration at this meeting.
The parliamentarian has informed me that we should probably have a vote on the package with the exception of the ones we pulled. So all those in favor of approving renewals, tab 44 through tab 114, with the exception of tab 45, tab 53, tab 69, tab 66, yep, 66, yes, 69, 72, 86, yep, and 110. Yeah, that's it. All those in favor of those renewals, with the exception of the ones I read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So those things.
And that's with delegation.
That's with delegation. All okay, so we are looking now at tab 53, which is permafrost.
And 86, which is also permafrost.
Yeah, let's see.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. This is Chase Griffith, the permafrost distributor.
Okay, right on. Good morning.
Ready and willing. Good morning to you all. Thanks for opening up the phones. I'm very happy to explain what's going on with me and bring everybody up to speed with how permafrost is doing. So, currently license number 10147 is completely satisfied with the excise tax with the state. License 11519 is currently on a payment plan. So, and that payment plan is all up to par. So, as far as I know, the Department of Revenue is satisfied along with the payment plan that we're doing. And about this time last year, I was in front of you all with a similar situation. The business better and better. We're just getting better. But my big deficit this year was I attempted to take on a third garden that was a little bit bigger than I had the ability to take on. So before.
Yeah, hey, Mr. Griffith, can you run it by us one more time? Just the status, your tax status on the two licenses. We had a microphone open. I was breaking it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So license number 10147 and Nikiski is completely up to date with this excise tax. And then license 11519 has a back tax due of approximately 70 plan, and we have about 10 more months to get that satisfied. But I anticipate hopefully that I can get it satisfied before the year limit's up.
Sorry, you cut out there a little bit. Could you just, we heard you had a tax liability on I think the Nikiski property of about 70-something, and we missed everything after that. Could you just recap that?
Maybe we can hear me better now. Let me step out of the grow here. Okay, so license number 10147 is current on its excise tax, and license 11519 is delinquent, but we have a payment plan set up that's satisfied.
Good on that?
I hope you can hear me a little better now.
All right. Okay, thanks, Mr. Griffith. Go ahead and turn the phone off for a second.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
We have two licenses, tab 113 and tab 114. We just renewed them, but the chair will entertain a motion to reconsider approval of renewal of license 17692, Mr. Happy Farms, and license 20113 High Rise LLC, so we can pull those back up again and consider the objections. And request for conditions.
Sorry, can I add to that? Tab 95, we received a protest from the MSB for taxes.
Tab 95. Tab 95. It's 24. Okay. All right. That's for license 12488. So is there a motion to reconsider tab 95, tab 113, and tab 114?
Mr. Chairman, I would motion the reconsideration on tab 95, license number 12448, tab number 113, license number 17692, and tab number 114, license number 20113.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, seconded by Mr. Miller, and we will hit those in order as we go along. So we just took care of 53 and 86.
Well, we've heard from the licensee.
Right, I've heard from the licensee. Well, we haven't voted on any of the ones that have been pulled yet. Go ahead.
I would like to motion approval for license number 10147, tab 53, and Help me out here, Lauren. What was the other one?
License number 11519.
1151?
Tab 86.
Thank you.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was first?
Michael's got it. Okay. All right. Any other discussion on tab 53 and 86? Okay, so for license 10147 and license. Okay, Mayor. Oh, it's right there in front of me there. License 11519. All those in favor of renewal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So, going along in
Did
order.
you guys want to vote on 45?
Yeah,
I was going to go back to that.
Yeah.
Chair's got to get a
Go ahead.
process for the rest of us to follow here. Anyway, I would move that we approve the renewal for license 10026.
There's a second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving license, what was it, 10? Okay. All those in favor signify by renewal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So, tab 66, Alaska Blooms. And let's turn the phone on and see if they are out there.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Okay, Alaska Blooms, you online?
We are online. How are you all doing
Okay,
today?
very good. Just hold it doing fine. Just hang on a second and get things opened up here. Okay, so there's an advertising and a response received.
The phone has been cutting out a bit, so
Okay,
out,
yeah,
just
that's
let me know.
not a surprise. We're just going over the NOVs here. Okay, the advertising one isn't. I don't think is it. Tell us about the NOV for selling in quantity exceeding the daily limit.
Okay, so that NOV was actually addressed in the July meeting, and Mr. Holscher spoke at length because we called him when we got this NOV, and this opened the whole conversation in the regulations about an ounce of flour versus 7 grams of concentrates versus the 5,600 total milligrams, and how that math, depending on the potency level of your flour, is actually a flawed system. And Holscher told us when we spoke with him, that he basically dismissed the NOV to my partner, Lyndon Anson, and spoke at length at the July meeting about how we need to revisit this because it does create some gray area. With that said, we did respond immediately to the NOV, and the offer itself was that they qualified for purchase, not that they could purchase more. But yes, this was addressed at the July meeting, and I'm certain it's in our file.
What time did you leave?
Okay, thank you very much.
p.m. and then you got here at 10.
The conference has been muted.
So with that, is there a motion on license number 10314, Alaska Blooms?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I assume this is a retail. It's hard for me to tell, but it looks like a retail. And we've already approved the Blooms 10073, even though they're currently showing delinquent on taxes. Could I ask her to talk a little bit about taxes on the cultivation license, even though we approved it, just to be clear? As long as we're...
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Okay, yes, I'm happy to. Yes, I am. I'm happy to speak to that.
Could you identify yourself real quick first?
This is Karen Lowry, one of the owners of Alaskan Blooms. And we have satisfied a previous payment plan and are currently established establishing, I should say, a payment plan with the DOR for our delinquent taxes. I've been in communication with the Department of Revenue regularly, almost daily actually, lately. So we have entered into a new agreement for that
Okay, thank you.
payment plan.
So, on, license 10314, retail marijuana Alaska Blooms for renewal, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
For second? Second, with delegation.
Why is there always a minute going on?
Seconded by, Jones. So all those in favor of approving, or renewing with delegation, license 10314 Alaska Blooms, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Tab 69, Alaska Cannabis Exchange. Alaska Cannabis Exchange, you out there?
Yes, Aaron Ralph here with Alaska Cannabis Exchange.
All right, you got 3 notices of violation regarding odor complaints. You got standard cultivation on 47th. What has been going on there that you'd like to tell us about?
Nothing particular, just, learning curve with figuring out the carbon that we're using, as to its lifespan and expectancy.
Okay, hey, is your odor complaints, do they come at when you're harvesting, or is there any particular point in the cycle when that comes up?
Yeah, it does seem to happen during harvest time.
Okay, and do you guys notice that yourselves before we get called?
Not always. We do we have a protocol where we actually, before anybody enters the facility, they go out around and check for any odor, any kind of thing like that, and then it's recorded on a daily log. So we've had a couple of incidences where we have smelled it in the morning. That gives us, prompts us to replace our carbon in our filters, and then usually the problem goes away. I think it's just during those times of peak harvest.
Okay, and has getting those filters that went to Dutch Harbor on accident, has that cut down the odor issue for you?
It does. But again, it comes down to, understanding the life expectancy. Some companies say that the carbon that we're using, which we have switched actually, we were using a coal-based carbon. We switched to a cocoa-based carbon because we were told that it lasts longer. However, we're seeing that it's about the same as far as coal carbon.
Okay. And then you get an NOV on taxes. You're a
I'd like to kind of...
You got anything you want to say about taxes?
Yeah. So I'd kind of like to point out that I've only been delinquent on taxes because of an error that was made, and I know that Aaron at Department of Revenue just started kind of going back and I guess rectifying, just making sure that everybody did it correctly. But the most that I've ever owed in tax was 2 times, one for $200, a little over $200. The second one was for a little over $10.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
So it might be smart to maybe know what the tax liability was before issuing an NOV. And only because
we don't get that from the Department of Revenue.
Mr. Ralph, the Department of Revenue is prohibited by statute from disclosing the amount of tax liability to anybody else.
Okay.
Surely.
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks for being on the line today. I've experienced how these filters can be remarkably effective until they're not. And
exactly.
And then it's a dramatic,
Hello.
particularly harvest time. Just out of curiosity, do you now have a schedule under by which you can replace the filters?
Yeah, and that schedule just kind of changes. It has a lot to do with, the moisture that's being omitted from the facility. I mean, there's so many different factors. So, we've seen our filters last perfectly fine for 4 months, sometimes up to 6 months. But it just really depends on how much air is being pushed through. Like during the summertime, you're pumping out a lot of hotter air, more consistent, so your filtration system is running, more, more constant, rather like in the winter where it's not as constant. if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
because it does matter about how much air is flowing across the carbon.
Well, you've got to exhaust a bunch of waste heat, more waste heat in the summer than you do in the winter, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I was just curious, because, I mean, it sounds like, and according to these invoices, it looks like you made a very deliberate and expensive effort to resolve the problem. I was just kind of
Yeah, we buy carbon by the super sack, 1,100 pounds. So we always have it on hand. So if we do smell it or we do have an issue, we can replace those filters within an hour.
Just a suggestion, you might want to look at replacing them like immediately before a harvest or something, just as a proactive measure.
Yeah, and we've actually done, I know in the last couple harvests, which we haven't had any situation where we just lower all the lights in the room just to give us enough light for doing a harvest and actually just turning the fans off.
Okay, great. And there's another thing you might want to, when you get ready to harvest or in the middle of it, you might want to give the board a drive by, and if it's, so they can just see what it's like when the filters are working right, and,
Okay.
so on. Okay, first rate. So on license 10671, do we have a motion for renewal?
Move to approve with
delegation. Delegation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. All those in favor of renewing license 10671 Alaska Cannabis Exchange LLC with delegation signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Raspberry Roots, are you with us?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I was wanting to ask for this, and they may be done with a very simple question to staff. Is this the same issue that we dealt with on tab 26?
No.
So the unauthorized virtual transfers are not the same issue that we dealt with on
No.
tab 26? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jana Levine, for Raspberry Roots, and I'm sure Kim Cole is on the line.
You up there, Kim?
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Kim Cole, are you with us?
I just texted her.
Okay. That's all right. Okay, let's get that tab opened up. The term of our virtual transfer, that means that the transfer took place in metric, but the truck had not left the dock.
Well, the reasons for it vary, but basically it's a metric transfer that isn't reflective of actual physical movement of product.
Okay. All right.
I will note that this is a self-reported violation.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm clear on what the product was transferred or not.
So, if you read the NOV, it looks like product was transferred with the wrong unit of measurement, which was not caught by either the transferor or the transferee. So the person who's receiving it is supposed to verify that what they're getting matches what's on the manifest. The person who's sending it out is supposed to verify that what they're sending out matches the manifest. Neither licensee did that, and so they had to make a correction to match what physically was transferred. They had to make a correction in metric to match that, and when those sorts of errors are made, you're supposed to contact the office, and we work with you to, because you're not supposed to do virtual, sort of fake movement of product in metric, because really what's in metric should match what's actually happening.
Okay, so if I'm reading this right, then the error initiated when you allowed the order to go out of your facility with the wrong unit of measurement, and the transporter not catching the error when receiving the order. The error resulted in 2 virtual deliveries from K Beach Reef, which is K Beach Reef was a cultivator, right, into Raspberry Roots caught it and said no, and they sent it back in metric to get it fixed, but they should have held on to the first bad, was it a manifest?
What they should have done was, one, they entered it into metric wrong, which Raspberry Roots didn't catch, and then KB Beach didn't catch. And then looking back at it the very next day, they realized they did it wrong, and so they transferred it in metric back to correct it, and then transfer it back to KB. Am I correct on that?
I think so.
I think so as well.
What should have happened is the receiver, if they find there's an error, they should reject it, and thus it should be sent back to the transfer, or who can then correct the error and do a second transfer. That's how the process ought to work.
And Kim is on the phone now.
Okay, very good. Morning, Kim. We'll get to you here in a second. I'm still trying to make sense out of this. So, what is supposed to happen is when an error is detected in metric, the AMCO is supposed to be notified. We have an error here, and we want to fix it, and enforcement or the director would say, go ahead. And that did not happen.
That's what didn't happen.
That did not happen. But again, there was no, well, was there a physical, I guess, Kim, you can answer this. Did you receive the product from K Beach? And I'm not asking this in any sort of a enforcement way. I'm just saying this because I'm dumb in how this works as anybody else in the universe, or more than. What was the physical package that you received? Did you square away the metric before the physical package was actually moved to your place?
If this is the one I'm thinking about, it's actually the other way around, where we sold to K Beach, and it was put in as an each as opposed to grams. So considering each package was a half-gram unit, then that meant instead of having 5 units, you're supposed to have 10. And so, hang on one second. So therefore,
okay, folks,
basically,
you gotta mute your phones, please. We're getting a big feedback there.
So basically, the problem was that it had been put in as each, as opposed to, it was still in grams.
Okay, yeah, we have this letter here from Janet. So go ahead, and we're gonna mute the phone.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
The units of measurement were off.
Okay, so this was self-reported, not particularly egregious.
And they understand now that they need to wait for responses from enforcement before doing a virtual transfer.
And read the receipts a little more.
Correct, yes.
You bet. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
2 questions, I think. So if I understand correctly, they shipped 10 units that were half a gram each versus 10 grams or something like that. So it was roughly a 2-fold difference in the weight.
Yes, and just to clarify, it was from Raspberry Roots which is a retail.
Okay. And then, so just reading through the notes here, it sounds like there is a mechanism for correcting this kind of thing through metrics.
In metric.
Backflow.
Yeah, it's like a virtual transfer is what metric calls it, and your metric lets you do it. The metric lets you do some things that aren't necessarily allowed under our regulations, hence, like, just because metric lets you do it doesn't mean you should always do it without approval.
And we talked about that day before yesterday because it's a nationally used system. Yeah.
And could I just, briefly to Mr. Schulte, as I'm sure you know, the statute specifically talks about what type of license can move product to what other type of license, and it doesn't really have allowances for what we call backflow, going backwards. And the board has recognized that there's a need for that in certain circumstances as a sort of normal business practice, but has directed it to be done with the approval of the office, so that because there isn't that automatic allowance within the statute, and thus not the regulations either.
So what options are available to the board with regard to this NOV?
Oh, the NOV is cleared. This is just being brought to our attention, as all are the other NOVs. But it does provide us an opportunity for a little bit of enlightenment. That's this morning's pot. A little bit of enlightenment on how metric works and what some of the things are that we've talked about before and we'll continue to talk about again. So, is there a motion? If there are no more questions, is there a motion on the renewal for Raspberry Roots? Yes, sir.
I would move that the board, accept the renewal for, Raspberry Roots license 10856.
Second by Mr. Schulte. With delegation, so all those in favor of the renewal of license 10856 Raspberry Roots, manufacturer in Anchorage, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Brings us to, we did tab 86, so did we vote on tab 86? Yeah, we did. Okay, good. Last but not least, oh, no, wait. Yeah, yes, 95. Okay, 95, Will's World, we pulled it back.
Yes, Janet Wilson, attorney for Will's World, and I believe this is property taxes?
No, this is Roosevelt. Huh?
Property taxes. There's a protest from the Matane-Pississippi Borough that came in after the agenda was set.
Yes, and so I talked to my client about this. I said, hey, guys, under the lease, we're not supposed to pay the property taxes. It's supposed to be the landlord. Can you check in? The landlord forgot to pay it and told us that they were making arrangements to pay it last week. So it should be paid up, but I don't have any really proof of that payment for property taxes.
Do you think a 30-day advance would be appropriate? Or, I mean, I guess this could be considered a conditional protest because it is something that could be resolved, so.
It should be paid.
Yeah, and if the lease says that obviously the borough has standing to protest, yes. Mm-hmm. The borough has standing to protest because they're not part of the lease, so.
So conditional, approval?
It's got delegation.
I mean, the thing is, if the board approves with delegation, they're working off of a temporary license. They go on and on and on and on. I mean, I'm not saying this is what is going to happen, but it's a possibility. The landlord never pays the taxes, and then the protest never gets addressed. So it might be more appropriate to deny the renewal with some abeyance period.
But couldn't we do the conditional approval?
But again, there's no end date to that.
Can I make a suggestion? This protest was received after the board deadline, so another option would be to, if it's not resolved by the board deadline for the next meeting, approve now with delegation, not consider the protest, and bring it back at the next meeting for the protest if not resolved.
We would be agreeable to that.
Okay. So the motion would be to approve license 12488 renewal with delegation that the protest by just normal delegation? Okay, all right. Okay, normal delegation. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second. So license 12448 Will's World, limited cultivation of Palmer with delegation. All those in favor of renewal signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and the other one that we drew a circle around, well, let's do number 110. Happy Harvest Company, LLC, tab 110.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Okay, Happy Harvest. Mr. Oman, are you online by any chance?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so you've got a couple of NOVs on odor. And,
yes, sir.
Go ahead. Tell us about that.
Well, I got the first NOV, which I thought was just a warning. So then we went and put in new filters and went and bought 2 new air scrubbers and went through and we did that. It seems to happen when we are trimming and harvesting. We had the borough come in, just to come in and check, and they came in and said that I was all up to code, and they suggested that I put a vapor barrier in my drying room, so I went ahead and did that and bought another 2 scrubbers. So I've done everything I think that I could do to make it not smell anymore. We had one of the enforcement officer come by after that, and I told him, he was just coming to do a stop by, and I told him what I have done, and he said that it smelled okay, and mentioned that maybe it was the biometric pressure because it was so cold during the times that these violations came. So I've sent pictures to the enforcement officer to show the new filters and all that I have done. So I think I got it under control.
Okay, real good. And Mr. Funk, you want to introduce yourself to us, just for the record?
Oh, this is Charles Oman.
Oh, Charles Ullman. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's all right. Mr. Funk's, that's my partner. He's not available today.
Identify, what job I'm on. So.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Could I ask you about the tax liability?
Yeah, that was $500 that I had owed. It was a miserror. We were talking to Jamie there. Basically, we couldn't find out where it was supposed to be coming from, so we just went ahead and paid it. It was $546, I believe it was, and we're caught up with that and been caught up with that for a while. It was the only one that we've had.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
So, any other questions? Okay, then shut off.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
6, a motion for renewal.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I would move the board approve the renewal license 14736 with delegation.
There's a second. Second by Mr. Schulte. So for license 14736, Happy Harvest Company, the Happy Harvest Company LLC, limited cultivate in Wasilla. All those in favor of renewal signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then it passes. So there he goes. Okay, tab 113, Mr. Happy Farms. Do we have the objection in our file?
The comments are in the file.
Okay, thank you.
And there may be people online.
Yep. And maybe people at the front table.
Anna Levine for Mr. Happy Farms, and the licensee is on the phone, and he has prepared a letter that wasn't done in time to make it to your packet, but I brought hard copies.
Okay, let's take a couple of minutes to make sure we get through these. Didn't we? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And just for the record, to finish my sentence was, didn't we consider this licensee just a couple of meetings ago? What? We did. Oh, we did in July. Okay, yeah. So we went through this at some length. And Director, did staff make any effort to confirm any of these numbers independently?
Mr. Chair, my independent confirmation is that the lot upon which Mr. Happy Farm sits abuts the lot of an elementary school. So technically, the licensed premises is 60 feet away from the lot line of an elementary school. However, the street is on the other side of the lot as the elementary school. So it all comes down to, what do you consider the shortest pedestrian route? This did engender the opening of a regulations project, and Mr. Jones and Mr. Miller and I met twice to work on that, and we are still working on it. But technically, the licensed premises is 60 feet away from the lot line of an elementary school.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a big lot. All right, let's, okay, so the odor complaint was based on,
It seemed like it was based on a public call-in, and then enforcement went out there and checked two different spots. They checked the north of East Echo Street, and they did smell, I believe they did smell some marijuana there, but then they went to the south, and they could not get a smell of marijuana, and there was a MTA crew working the intersection of Echo and Sierra Street, and they said that they could smell marijuana, but they couldn't tell what direction it came from.
is your client on the line?
Yes.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Okay, Mr. Shelton, are you with us?
Yes, this is Matthew Shelton, owner and cultivator of Mr. Happy Farm.
Okay, good morning. We asked the same question of some of the other odor NOVs. Was there any particular time in your cultivation cycle that these odor complaints arose?
No, I understand that, harvest time is typically a lot smellier, but no, I was getting these complaints in the middle of a harvest when I was just in flower and veg, no harvest, no product. But I have, took them seriously, and I've reconfigured my grow to take a couple penetrations out of the building and put the air in the building. And the two penetrations I do have that go outside are now carbon filtered. I talked with enforcement about that. Enforcement of the carbon scrubbers on the building that, I'm venting into now. And I do like others. I do random checks if I have, every day. If I have somebody come over, say a vendor dropping off water or propane or something, I always ask their opinion and, because I just want to make sure I'm in compliance. But, I've had AMCO come twice since that first NOV was issued, and for more complaints, and they've got within 10 feet of my building and could not smell any marijuana. So I believe that I've, got this well under control.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the objection. Is there anybody online with
Yes.
the North Lakes Community Council?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry?
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Sure
My
can.
name's Sam Hansen, and I reside in Shaw's Tri-Lakes area, and I'm also a board member with the North Lakes Community Council. I'd like to start off by noting the very first thing stated with both the state and the state of Alaska and the AMCO statute are for anyone considering applying for a license is the 500-foot setback requirement. I spoke with the Matsu planner, Mark Weisenhut, who emailed me times when they sat down with Mr. Happy Farms. Matthew Shelter met with him February 18th. Thomas Dykes met with him in March and again in April of 2018, and they discussed how their license was exempt from borough permitting standards. Weisenhut shared with them that had they been a standard cultivation license, they would not qualify for the Matsu Borough's 1,000-foot setback requirement for John Shaw Elementary School's lot line. Regarding school grounds, he stated to them, "We do not make opinions on state of Alaska standards. Our office always refers customers to the AMCO when there's a question regarding state standards." This Weisenhut comment is found in a letter dated June 12th, which was provided for your review of Mr. Happy Farms in July. The timeline on Mr. Happy Farms for your new board member is both members spoke with the Matsu Borough regarding requirements in 2018. Mr. Happy Farms building was constructed prior to applying for the loan in to the license in 2018. Both Shelter and Dykes certified on their application that their building was not within 500 feet of a school ground. In fact, as you found out, they are 60 feet from the school lot line. Your staff didn't catch this during their application review process, and Mr. Happy Farms did not share this with you in December when you reviewed his license. Their location to Shaw's Elementary was brought forward to you in May of this year. During your July meeting, the board decided to allow them to continue operating because you wanted to meet and establish the definition of school grounds and how to measure the distance from a facility. The state statute already defines it under definitions as a school lot line. Until the state definition changes, AMCO cannot approve any license that is closer than 500 feet to a school lot line. I spoke with the Matsu Borough School District. Monica Goyette is their superintendent, and she indicated she will be calling AMCO to share her disapproval of a license being located closer than 500 feet from any of the Matsu Borough Schools lot lines. I'm asking you today to please rescind this license because it doesn't meet with state or AMCO setback requirements. The state clearly defined it. Cannot leave it up to interpretation and to protect all of our Alaskan children. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. It's probably in here, but I missed it. Are one or both of these properties within the Matsu Borough?
They both are.
They both are. Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. And do we know what the distance is between Mr. Happy Farm's structure and the nearest portion of the school buildings?
Over 2,500 feet away. And it goes through, so the issue here is this is a huge lot that is tangled with a heavily wooded area. You wouldn't be in your right mind to let kids, especially elementary kids, go through this undeveloped area. There's not even a trail system. And the comments about Mark Wenzenhut, I'm surprised that if he felt the way that he felt, he didn't actually write a letter to that effect, because I talked with him, and I haven't heard those exact same comments from him, but I don't want to speak for him, so if he's on the phone, that would be helpful.
I took the comments straight out of his letter. The only thing that I added was the email he sent me about the dates that he actually met with both gentlemen from Mr. Happy Farm.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Another question. Again, I'm looking at the aerial photo of the property that was provided to us in this letter from Sam Hansen. Oh, actually, regarding their letter. My question is, do we know what the distance is from Mr. Happy Farm's, I assume this is northward or up, to the, what's labeled as the parking cul-de-sac, or the trail to the school? If the distance from the facility school building is 2,500 feet, then that looks to be less than that, somewhere in the range of I'm guessing.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, again.
If I might just address part of that. And one of the reasons why Mr. Miller and I have been getting together, and we haven't been able to work through all the processes. Currently, under our regulations, 306010, it says the distance specified in this subsection must be measured by the shortest pedestrian route from the public entrance of the building in which the licensed premise would be located to the outer boundaries of the school grounds. And the fact is that this building that the grow is in is 60 feet from the boundary of the school grounds. Now, granted, there's 2,000 feet of woods, but the property that's defined by the Matsu Borough as a school grounds, that boundary line is here. And so part of the reason for us getting together is trying to determine if we wanted to make changes to that, if we wanted to address how do we define the shortest pedestrian route. Anchorage has a definition. It's the only community that does. There were several other issues, because it says to the outer boundaries of a school, that it says from the boundary of a marijuana process to the front door of a church. It's, so each 500 feet for different functions is measured differently. And so part of our task was to look at that, and we haven't resolved that yet. But the way the regulation reads now, it is from the marijuana grow to the boundary of the school, not to the front door. And that's our dilemma.
Can I say something?
No, just hang on, please. The board is deliberating here. Go ahead, Mr. Schulte.
No, I was just going to point out that Mr. Jones is correct that the Anchorage Assembly has wrestled with this, but this licensee is not in Anchorage. Our regs say it's measured along the shortest pedestrian route. Looking at this aerial photo, I see woods, and if there is a pedestrian trail through there, it's not an established one or a recognized one. I mean, with all due respect to the objection, it kind of feels like they're well. First of all, I find it difficult to accept their assertion that the applicant was dishonest in the original application. Cause while the property lines may indeed be in close proximity, so it's an awful long hike to get from A to B in this aerial photo, unless I'm missing something. I mean, I'm not trying to dismiss or disparage their claim, but it feels to me like this is a bit of a stretch to try and deny renewal.
Well, I mean, it does say school ground. The definition of school ground is pretty well established. 60 feet through the woods, unless it's willows and alders.
But there is no pedestrian route.
Well,
from property line to property line.
There may not be a trail.
But there's not.
There'll be a trail.
And it's not as the crow flies.
Property. So yeah, so that leaves us with deciding whether the actual pedestrian route is going out to the road and walking up to that parking cul-de-sac.
Can I say
That would be
something?
the shortest route there. So, we can think about that from that standpoint. There are a couple of things that were in a couple of these letters, and I will point out for the record that a couple of the objections we've received are anonymous, which for whatever reasons, I am submitting this anonymously out of a real fear for retaliation based on past threats and unsettling behaviors, which have been demonstrated online and face-to-face with
Come on, ready to go.
what it says.
You fucking can suck this up to begin with.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
That was not anybody related.
Then there's another one that says they want it revoked. Kind regards, a concerned neighbor. I'm requesting for my own safety and well-being my letter be kept confidential. At no time do I want my letter shared with Mr. Happy Farms due to erratic, unstable, and uncivil behavior and reactions by members of this LLC on social media and in other instances. And I'm reading this just so that, again, the record shows that we're being comments from anonymous people.
And I would just, for the record, just know, there has been no police calls related to these alleged threats. If people are in fear of their safety, then they should be reporting it to the police.
What about the stolen car in the driveway? Is that?
Could you unmute the phone, because I'm unaware of that issue.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Matthew, do you want to speak to the stolen car? I've got a little actually blurb about it if you're not prepared to speak about it, but I can.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely prepared to speak about that. That was, it just was a random thing. I was there that morning. There was 2 state troopers at the street. I went up blocking the driveway. I went to talk to them, and you could see that a stolen car came down Echo Street, could not make the turn on Sierra, and slid into the driveway. The homeowner, Thomas Geikis, woke up by the state troopers, and he was actually helping the state troopers look for whoever had stolen that car and ran through his property. At no time was Thomas ever, or the homeowner ever, involved in that, or ever, was considered a suspect in that. It was just a very random thing, and I think that was about 6-7 months ago.
So somebody stole a car and then ditched it near the facility.
Ditched it right, it slid into his driveway, so, there was...
That happens at my house with bicycles all the time.
Can I ask?
But yeah, there was...
Go on, Matt.
The owner of that vehicle that was stolen ended up appearing at Dicus's house. That was during a rift of many thefts in the area. This was stolen from a neighborhood lot and was missing, and when the police troopers were in pursuit, that car went directly to his lot. He got out of the car and ran into the woods. The owner of the car was there, very serious. Everything was verbal. There were feelings and are feelings that there was more associated with this theft ring that were vandalizing the area. The theft ring has been shut down, and about 6 months after, it was a large ring that was hitting that specific area. There are people that did send in your letters anonymously. There is a very aggressive Facebook page which Dicus is a part of and has commented on. And when Dicus's car says sniper on his license plate, and he boldly boasts that he can take somebody out in the next zip code, and uses the profanity that he does, a lot of our neighbors will not come forward. There were 25 people who signed the petition in the July meeting. Many more would have signed it, but they did not want their name associated with it because they didn't want others to know that they signed it. There's a reason why they came through that way.
So it sounds to me like the drug or whatever ring of crime has been caught.
There's a theft ring that...
Caught.
Yeah. Ronnie?
Yes, sir. I remember back in July, I voted no for this licensee. Elementary school-age children are the most vulnerable demographic that we have. If there's any question about 500 feet or 60 feet to the property line of the building, it's irrelevant. I think the regulations right now speak for themselves, and I think it should be a no. If there's going to be regulations change in the future, we might readdress it and maybe change our mind, but as of right now, I'm still a no on this.
And so I would just respond to that, it's 500 feet pedestrian route. There is not a pedestrian route within that 60-foot buffer, that 60-foot space. It's thick against woods.
I think that's subjective. You say no, but Ms. Hanson says yes.
Actually,
but there's no trail. There's no pedestrian route.
To clarify, the
we're
Okay,
going to have the phone on. I mean,
you've had your opportunity for...
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions for the licensee or Ms. Wellseen, or then we can get a motion and do some deliberating?
Excuse me, can I testify?
Okay, turn the phone off, please. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Don't turn it off yet. Is there somebody else that wants to testify?
Yes, for Mr. Happy Farms.
Would you please identify yourself?
My name is Melody McCullough.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. McCullough.
I totally support Matt's business in the community in which I live in. As far as the school goes, the only route to the school is by road. Most parents in the neighborhood, if any, that have children that go to Shaw, including myself, have to drive their children to school because we are out of the Shaw boundary. Most of the kids that ride the bus to Shaw come up and down from Wasilla Fishhook. I have had children in that school. I have been on that playground. I have been on the outside line of the fence, aka the border line or the property line. I have never smelled anything coming from that area as far as marijuana goes. I have also driven by there. I have never smelled it. There is some support in the community for this small business. I don't think that his license should be denied. He's offering a product that was voted for and has been legalized. And I think you guys should really reconsider your thoughts, because not all the naysayers that wrote letters anonymously they're like the busybodies of the community, from what I can tell.
Through the chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
You mentioned a fence. Can you describe this fence that you're referring to?
The outside perimeter of the school, inside the playground. You have to go up a big hill, and there is access to walk through there, but there is no trail.
Okay, so you're talking about around the playground, there's a fence that kind of encompasses the area.
The grass area, the playground, so to speak. They have a snow sledding hill there in the wintertime, and they also have the playground area, but the nearest building is quite a bit away.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
There are two other activities that take place on that school ground.
Okay, ma'am, can you, hold on, please.
I'm done.
Go ahead, Mr. Schulte.
Just a quick question for the last one who called in. I apologize, I didn't catch your name. With regard, Melanie, with regard to with your knowledge of the property, would it be possible for somebody to walk directly from the school grounds through the woods to the back of Mr. Happy's facility without
Would it be
being
possible?
blocked by a fence?
No. Especially not a child. It's hard for an adult to get through there. The only entrance to Shaw Elementary, actual entrance, is from Wasilla Fishhook, which means coming down Echo to Charlie, past Mariah, to Wasilla Fishhook, making a left, and going about a fourth of a mile, if even that, to the entrance, driving in there. Anybody that goes in there that drops off their kids, drive their children, or they come on the bus. The kids from the bus come up and down from Wasilla Fishhook.
You know, as far as fences go, all kids go over fences. Unless that's concertina wire, it's not going to stop it. Fences is nothing but quick barriers.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, was there a question I didn't hear?
Hi, my name is Caleb Saunders, and I'm just not associated with this at all, but I'm just giving public comment just like all the objectors and everyone else on the phone has a chance to. The rules, when they're all being made, I mean, there's the as the crow flies, but that was not the rules that the board decided on. They decided on a pedestrian route. Well, what is a pedestrian route? Pedestrian route isn't just a straight shot as long as there's not buildings in the way, even if it's only wood. A pedestrian route is pedestrian, where you are legally allowed to be walking, which is maintained to me, I don't think that simply saying that you're going to go with line of sight when the rules say, I guess it's just kind of going back to that consistency thing. We need to go with what the rules say rather than what we feel like they should say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Okay. So this is for renewal. We discussed this meeting, discussed this licensee, the very similar objections in July.
Thank you.
Can we turn the phone off?
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
On renewal of license 17692 with delegation so that we can deliberate.
Excuse me, Chair, did you want to wait till Mr. Schulte got back?
Oh, I'm
sorry.
I know, I did. Missed that. Okay, yeah, of course we'll wait for Mr. Schulte to get back. Actually, you know what, let's take a 10-minute break anyway, because we've been here for a couple hours.
Okay.
get back in a moment. Okay, we're back on the record, and we are looking at continuing on license 17692. So, in order to facilitate, we've heard public comment. We've heard from the licensee. Do we have a motion on the renewal of license 17692, Mr. Happy Farms with delegation?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Schulte.
I move to approve license number 14736, Happy Farms, and if I can get a second, I'll speak.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
I think
second.
you gave the license number wrong.
17692.
You said three.
You are correct, I was looking at the wrong tab, I'm sorry,
With delegation.
17692, Happy Farms. Tab 113. I caught up. Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Speak to this. So, I mean, we've heard a lot of, very heartfelt, testimony, some objections to this renewal and a lot of detailed information. I'm looking at the regulations which are now in effect. One can argue whether those are appropriate, inappropriate, whatever. They are in fact the regulations under which this license was first granted. And it does define the manner of measurement, the distance offset from protected facilities like a school, and the manner in which that should be measured. This is a subject of much discussion over many, many weeks, both at the state level and in local jurisdictions. And looking at this aerial photo that we've been provided, I see every indication that this property meets the requirement of our regulations, and thus, I don't feel that we can deny the renewal on that basis. The testimony we've heard, and even if I were to take it one step further and just look at what is the potential damage to the community or risk to children or the school and so forth, that is a legitimate concern, even if it doesn't lead to a renewal denial. We've heard testimony that the playground where the kids are hanging out is fenced off. So, I mean, I understand, a child could, go to the extreme edge of the playground, climb over a fence, hike, and find themselves at the front door of a facility that is completely secured and inaccessible to them. I just don't see a rational basis for train wrecking this business in the middle of their growth on what I view as an overly restrictive interpretation of the rules. I believe they've met the regulation, and I would encourage the members to vote in favor of renewing this license.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'll note that when this license was first approved in December of 2018, it passed unanimously. There were, I don't think there were any objections at that time. Go ahead, Director.
Well, Mr. Chair, I just remind you that nobody was aware of this situation when it passed in December.
Of the proximity to the property line.
Yeah.
That's correct. So, we do have the definition of school grounds, which mixes up with pedestrian route. And if there's no you know, if there's no footpath through those woods back to the back end of the property line, then that, in my view, doesn't constitute a pedestrian route. You know, the assumption that, well, you can break trail is one thing, but the trail being there is entirely another. So, and I have to say, I'm not going to give a whole lot of weight to anonymous objections. Just, you know, this is I think this is the first time that we've seen anonymous correspondence with this board about any license, and you know, most organizations, you know, you get an anonymous letter, it doesn't go very far in the pile. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I clarify that the anonymous letters were not considered objections? They were comments. Just for the record, we don't consider anonymous comments to be official objections.
Right. So with that, is there any other, yeah, Mr. Miller?
I would just like to say, you know, we discussed this heavily in July. We did a lot of measuring. We looked at a lot of lot lines. And the fact that in the past, and the regulations say that we will measure the distance with a pedestrian route. A pedestrian route assumes that you're not cutting through private property and, you know, cutting trail through people's homes, their yards. And if you measure the distance based on how we've done it in the past, the distance to the lot is well over 500 feet. So I'm definitely going to support the renewal for this license.
Any other comments? All right, we're ready to vote on the renewal with delegation of license 17692, Mr. Happy Farms Limited Cultivation in Wasilla. Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Schulte? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Jaime?
No.
And I'm going to vote yes. So.
Thank you.
Right, which brings us to tab 114, High Rise, LLC in Kodiak.
Shannon Wilson, returning to High Rise, and I believe Jack is on the line.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
I was supposed to text him before we got closed.
You're telling me that it's got mold in them again?
No mold.
Not related.
Those red.
Just a reminder to mute your phones. We hear somebody talking. It's a gentleman.
Okay, so High Rise
Send them all back.
is
Get a hold of Red
for
Ron and tell them they got mold again.
Okay, is High
So that's
Rise
not him.
High Rise online?
I was supposed to text him when we got closer, and I just
Okay,
wasn't able
so Al,
to.
this looks like this is he's got an NOV.
So this is for selling a product so I just recently got engaged by this company, but my understanding is he didn't necessarily know about the Kodiak prohibition and sold some products that were not.
Hello?
Oh, are you there, Jack?
Yep, this is Jack.
Okay, great. Can you talk about the NOV that you received?
Yeah, Mr. Shackler, go ahead and introduce yourself to us for the record.
My name is Jack Chalkler. I'm the owner of High Rise LLC. I have just, it was lack of attention to detail on my part. We had picked up a manifest and we had taken it to Kodiak and we had purchased 45 full grams of concentrate. We were manifested 45 half grams. That mistake was not caught until it was already accepted due to my lack of attention. But we got it figured out after the fact.
Okay, had you notified, once you discovered it, did you notify AMCO before you made the retransfer?
I personally did not. I contacted Cold Creek and notified them, and
brand manager, owner, he made the self-report.
Okay, all right, and then, the city of Kodiak doesn't want edibles sold.
Correct, not concentrates. I was mixing the issues.
And Mr. Chair, this condition was placed on the license during its original approval, so I think it just needs to be redone through the renewal.
Okay, any questions for licensee? Okay, not hearing any. Is there a motion on renewal for license 20113 High Rise LLC Retail in Kodiak? With conditions, with Kodiak conditions and with delegation.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve renewal of license number 20113 High Rise LLC with delegation and with the provisions stipulated by the Borough of Kodiak.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of license 20113 High Rise LLC Retail in Kodiak signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, there you go. That takes care of renewals.
Thank you very much.
Now we have got some executive session. Okay. All right. You know what? We're going to go to executive session, and we ought to be done by time with these. So, we'll come out of executive session and make the votes. And then
Do you want to check for people again?
Oh, yes. Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. Okay, we've got a roll call of people that are on the delegation list. Brown Owl, are you out there? Last Kind. We're looking for Last Kind. You're also on the delegated list. You out there? Denali Herb Company. AK Cultivations.
The Denali Herb Company.
Denali Herb Company, first rate. Good. Okay, well, let us get back to the page that you are on. Good morning. You're on our delegation list. Let's see. So introduce yourself and tell us what's going on.
My name is Greg Keegan. I own, it will be the Denali Herb Company. We're still in building process. I'm on electrical right now, and it's just a matter of putting it all together.
Has the fire marshal given you approval now?
For
or are you
building,
still waiting?
yes.
Okay, so what's your timeline looking like right now?
Well, I'm hoping before the first of the year. I'm working my tail off trying to get her going.
Yeah. Okay, then we will look to hear from you in November. Okay?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right. All right. And AK Cultivations, you out there? Bigfoot Bud. And Daliwoda. Okay, no sign of them. All right. Then with that, do we have a motion to go into...
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Before you do that, so these are 5 licensees who self-reported either a criminal violation on their renewal application. And so they were suggested to be discussed in executive session under AS 4462 310C2 as subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request discussion. So first of all, I think the board should determine, do you want to speak to each of these people? Lots of things were, NOVs were certainly issued to everyone, and you did not discuss that with everyone. So do you want to speak to each of these people? Then if you do, you can go into executive session, but you should ask each person whether they, we have phone numbers for them, we'll be calling them, but then you should ask them whether they wish to have the discussion on the record.
Okay. Very good point. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look through the confidential file on the computers, which in some cases are just self-reports, and in some cases are explanations why they may or may not have checked a particular box on the application?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I have, and I didn't have any specific questions offhand, except that I believe on tab 119, Arctic Bakery, earlier this meeting, we approved a ownership transfer. And one of the persons mentioned in Arctic Bakery, after we approved the transfer, is no longer an owner. So I don't know that we necessarily have to deal with Arctic Bakery. I think that's one that we could approve the rule, since the person
that
mentioned in that is no longer of the action we took earlier. Otherwise, I think we should. I don't have any objection to the renewal on any of these except for the Fairbanks Analytical, which I think we should discuss in executive session.
Okay. And I know, I think everybody else has looked at them. And one of these we discussed in another renewal. So, okay. Well, somebody would like to make a motion to approve the renewals for tab 115, 116, 118, and 119.
Motion to approve license 1649 K Beach Reef, license 12062 Matanuska Medicine Woman, 15916 K Beach Reef, and license number 16006 Arctic Bakery.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, then for the renewal of 11649 K Beach Reef Standard Cultivate in Soldotna, license 1 to Matanuska Medicine Woman LLC Limited Cultivate in Wasilla, license 15916 K Beach Reef Retail Store in Soldotna, and 16006 Arctic Bakery Marijuana Product Manufacturing Facility in Fairbanks. All those in favor of those renewals with delegations signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those are renewed. And so in the matter of license 15142 is, okay, we're going to call her up. Okay, 15124 Fairbanks Analytical Testing. Yeah, let's get her online and see if she wants to go to executive session or if she wants to do it in public discussion.
For the future, would you guys wish that we provided applicants with this option at the time of notice of consideration so that we don't have to do this?
Yeah, if it looks like, yeah, yes. Yeah, hi, good morning. It's Mark Springer. We are up to your renewal, and there on your MJ20, there's information that, I'm sorry, I was looking at the other microphone. Okay, this is Mark Springer, the Marijuana Board. We're on your renewal. As you know, there's a statement on here on the renewal application that we'd like to give the opportunity to the person who made the statement to discuss it in executive session, or if it's no problem in public session.
Prefer executive if possible.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that. So is there a motion to go into executive session under 4462-310C2 to discuss license 15124 renewal?
Mr. Chair, I'd make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Okay, hang tight while we clear the room.
Okay, thanks, everybody. This should not take too long. We will come out, we will vote on license, and then we will go to lunch. So, if anybody wants to sit in the little room over there.
The chairperson has disconnected. The conference will now end. Welcome to the GCI Conference Center. Please enter your access code. Thank you. Please stand by. You will now be placed into conference. There are 10 participants in the conference.
Violations they had or the failed tests. I believe there was 36 of them, or something somewhere near that number.
On the E. coli?
Yes. I guess we did receive a response from her. I don't recall seeing that response.
So the board moved that the response be submitted and reviewed by Mr. Krupe before the board is reconvened, and Mr. Krupe is in his review right now. So I expect to be asking the board to come back together probably next week.
Okay.
Okay, with that, moved and seconded to approve the renewal of license 15124 Fairbanks Kennel Testing LLC, marijuana testing facility in Fairbanks with delegation, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Schulte.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Jaime.
No.
And I'm a yes. So that's 4-1, and that is renewed. Okay, we're going to break for lunch. We're going to pamper ourselves since it's Friday the 13th.
The chairperson has disconnected. The conference will now end.